Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the May Canyon Country Advisory Committee meeting. Please realize that the Moose Family Center is provided to us by the Moose Lodge as a public service. We're very appreciative that they allow us to do that. On the inside of the lodge, there's a kitchen, a stage, and a bar area, and they do prepare pizza on Wednesday night if you'd like to stop by early and have a little something to eat before the meeting. For tonight's meeting agenda, we'll start out as normal with the flag salute, announcements, minutes of the last meeting, and unfortunately we did have a cancellation this evening. We'll be able to adjust our time a little bit accordingly. Jim Brazel, I got a call this morning that he had a medical emergency and he's okay from what I understand, but he was still in the hospital and they were watching him, and hopefully Jim will recover. He's a really great guy, and we'd sure like to see him back again. Also, when we discussed the fire department, I had promised to let Stephanie English introduce everybody, but another call that I received early this morning was from Doug's grandmother. And Doug's grandmother, don't look that way. Doug's grandmother informed me and told me that I absolutely had to make sure to tell everybody here at the meeting that Doug grew up in Newhall. He was a Hart-High graduate, and when an 83-year-old grandmother asked me to do something, I followed the long-standing Canyon Country Advisory rule that I just made up, that we should always make that happen. Next after that will be a presentation by Gene Dorio about Henry Mayo, what's happening at Henry Mayo. Then we'll talk about the last of our bylaw ratification process, and we'll go through our version of public participation, which is the first 5 people that want to speak for 1 minute, and then a preview of the June meeting, and then we'll adjourn. All of you, I'm sure, remember and realize and have heard about the fact that the Navy SEALs did such a fine job in killing Osama bin Laden over the past month. And we all know that those guys are really tough and brave and accomplish an awful lot, but sometimes even they need some help. So I turned around and looked for that kind of a situation, and tonight I'd like to talk about Navy Petty Officer and Explosive Ordnance Disposal Specialist Mike Mansour. Was born on April the 5th, 1981, and died September the 29th in 2005, committing an extreme act of heroism for which Mike was awarded our nation's highest honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Mike gave up his life in Iraq when he jumped on and covered his body on a live grenade, saving the lives of a group of Navy SEALs that were passing by. During Mike Mansour's funeral at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery, San Diego, as the 6 pallbearers removed the rosewood casket from the hearse and lined up on each side of Mike Mansour's casket, a column of family members, friends, and well-wishers formed a column all the way from the hearse to the gravesite. What the group didn't know at that time was every one of the 45 Navy SEALs that Mike Mansour saved that day was scattered throughout the column. As the pallbearers carried the rosewood casket down the column of people to the gravesite, the column would collapse and form a group of people that followed behind. Every time the rosewood casket passed the Navy SEAL, he would remove his gold trident pin from his uniform and slap it down hard, causing the gold trident pin to embed itself into the top of the wooden casket. Then the Navy SEAL would step back from the column and salute. For those who don't know what a trident pin is, here's the definition. After one successfully completes 18 weeks of SEAL qualification training required for assignment to a Navy SEAL platoon, trainees are given their naval enlisted code, and are awarded the Navy SEAL Trident pin. With this gold pin, they are now officially Navy SEALs. With that said, you could hear each of the 45 slaps across the cemetery. By the time the rosewood casket reached the gravesite, it looks as though it had a gold inlay from the 45 trident pins that lined that top. That was a fitting conclusion to an eternal send-off of a warrior hero. Recognizing Petty Officer Mike Mansour's act of bravery should make us all ponder if we would have had the same presence of mind to make that same split life and death decision that day. With that, and God bless all of our troops throughout the world, Mr. Natoli, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It would be my honor. Would you stand? All those in uniform, render a right hand salute. All others, hand over your heart. And say with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Many of you, we've reported in the announcements, we've reported for the last couple of meetings about the March 8th 2-2 council vote and what happened there at the council meeting. The March 8th City Council minutes, which were not posted on the website until maybe a week or a week and a half ago, are now on that site, and you can see what happened on agenda item 5, where the motion was passed 2-2. April the 12th City Council minutes, agenda item 7, showed the issue being brought up for reconsideration with no rationale for the information relating to the 2-2 vote. A video released on Friday, 4/13 by Not a Ferry Fan shows clips from the Martha H. City Council meeting and the reconsideration accomplished at the April 12th meeting. Does the Santa Clarita government employ an open and transparent process? I urge you to watch that video and you can decide for yourself. The city budget process, we had told you we were going to follow all the way through, and we have been doing that. Joint study sessions took place on February the 1st and on May the 17th. What we learned from that is that all of those individuals that work for the city get fed dinner and get to hear a presentation first about how lucky they were from last year, and then secondly, what happened, what's going to happen in the next year. We'll keep you a lot better informed about this because the budget subcommittee meetings that were supposed to discuss the budget itself, one was moved till just the day before the subcommittee meeting, and the other, most recent one, was canceled. Last night, if you watched the Planning Commission meeting, you probably didn't notice, but the first item on the agenda related to them accepting the budget, there was supposed to be a report from the council, from the city manager's office, and it never took place. This is going to go to the council on the 24th, and so if you'd like to be there and see how that works, I'm sure that you'll be amazed. Also, we're going to go and discuss the assessments. Right now, we've had 3 assessments that have been raised. One was the open space assessment, and the landscape maintenance districts had been increased. These items were all placed on the consent calendar and are provided with information provided 3 days before the meeting and their subsequent decision. Dialogue on suggested increases against what the costs are not brought forth to the public unless you go to the meeting and demand it. Anyway, if you don't go to the council meetings and ask about those issues, nothing gets said. So here again, we're going to be looking into those pieces of information, asking questions about increases and the justification for those increases, as opposed to just raising the fees because they can. But there was good news about traffic safety. At the last council meeting on agenda items 7, 8, and 9, 3 items were passed to improve safety conditions on our roadways. The first were signal improvements at 3 intersections, including White's and Stillmore just down the street. Also, a needed raised median on Lyons Avenue, immediately east of the 5, and that would be there to prevent individuals from coming off the 5 and making a beeline across the road to the gas station. And there's been a lot of accidents because of that. And the last are 2 more elementary schools that are on the Safe Routes to School program. So in this case, Traffic Department and the council should be congratulated in helping keeping us safer. High-speed rail workshops that we talked about. The first one did take place on May the 2nd, and the high-speed rail group are very anxious for you to show up on the 23rd. Both Rick and I got calls from them, and they're really looking to see if they can get as many people as possible to hear their pitch. So if you have an opportunity on next Monday, they meet at the Activity Center at 7 p.m. The Public Safety Committee has been proposed by Bob Keller. The council agreed to continue discussing that item until the 12th, which would be, I'm sorry, they agreed to continue it on the 12th, and it will be on the May 24th City Council agenda. I don't think anything could be more productive than providing a venue where our citizens, elected officials, and law enforcement could interact on a regular basis. So if you have a chance, be at the City Council meeting on the 24th and support Bob Keller's initiative for a public safety subcommittee. Just a little follow-up on our own incorporation. The Santa Clarita Community Council, which is our umbrella organization, we applied for a 501c3 on February the 4th, 2001, and we were rejected on April the 15th because we had a word that was inappropriate in our purpose statement. So we took the word educational out, and we have reapplied, and we'll wait for the information to come back. The board at our last board meeting indicated that we would really like to have a 4th of July parade float. We haven't, as long as I've been here, well, I think we've had one, but I've never participated in one. Anyway, we'd like to celebrate the 4th with a float. This year's theme is the women's right to vote. We have a sign-up sheet in the back. If you'd like to help decorate or participate in the float, we'd appreciate it. All your family members are welcome. So sign up and we'll keep you informed. And we should have a really good time on the 4th of July. We're, as usual, keeping track of attendance statistics. The last meeting we had 37 people, and we'll continue to track our attendance and try to understand what's going on. At the same time, we've now started putting our videos online. So I thought one thing that was interesting, we'll show you the video statistics and explain at some point in time exactly how we come up with that number. But what I thought was very interesting was people continue to look at some of these videos weeks after the next meeting or the meeting after. So for last month's videos, we had what we believe to be about 27 independent individuals that saw it. Add that to the 37 people that attended, and we reached 74 total. So we're going to keep trying to encourage people to watch them. Please tell your community members and your neighbors about them, and we'll try to get our message out as best that we can. For the minutes of the last meeting, Nadine's not here yet, so I'll read them for you really quickly. The meeting was called to order. The agenda was read. We had a tribute to fallen soldiers Rudy Acosta and Donald Mickler. The flag salute was led by Ed Colley. Announcements were provided, and minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. Spence Leafdale provided a presentation on the KHIT's bus trip to Sacramento. It was on March 21st and 22nd, and it was their 6th annual trip. The group met with legislatures and assembly where they had where a lot of questions took place. Topics included the budget, redistricting, chloride, enterprise zones, high-speed rail, and mental health services, but there was no information provided about what we can expect based on the state budget cuts. Karen Schnook provided a presentation on the Gentle Barn, and that presentation is being watched a lot. Its view numbers are building. The Gentle Barn is a nonprofit animal rescue group. They also provide activities for at-risk and special needs children. They're open to the public on Sunday. Give Karen a call or go up and visit them. It's really a great place. I provided a presentation on the Financial Accountability and Audit Panel. We provided an overview of how open space district funds are derived. We reviewed authorized acquisitions and how they're identified and tracked. And lastly, a projection of the open space district funding from the present through sunset. Current funding of $27.50 a year was sufficient to maintain solvency, and I recommended that the assessment fee increase was not required this time. The council disagreed, and they increased it to $29. Canyon Country Advisory Committee officer elections, and the officers, myself for chair, Merle for co-chair, and Nadine for secretary were unanimously approved. In public participation, Berta Gonzalez got up and requested written response or comments and questions about the CCA bylaws. Next, meeting review. We talked about Pardee Homes being here. Of course, they're not. And in June, Carl Goldman on K-HITS and their disaster prevention program. Carl will be here. We'll be getting a presentation on the CAG. We will be getting a presentation from the Sheriff's Department on their new crime prevention program. And the meeting was adjourned. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
My name, again.
Okay. Any others? Then minutes stand approved as corrected. Straight on, do we have any public participants? You have one, huh? All right, Berta, come on, let's get on up and.
We're not doing the bylaws tonight then? Okay, well then I don't have to talk about that at all. I would like to once again request that we get some draft minutes beforehand so that we can review those. Also, I would like to ask that we agendize the redistricting issue. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, we are going through the process of having a citizens commission that is going to redraw the lines, and depending on where they redraw those lines, we may have some very interesting partners. I don't want to sound like I'm scaring people, but they've actually been talking about splitting us up because, of course, they say we're not, quote, one city, which isn't our fault. That was LAFCO's fault. But also going as far south as south of the 118, which for those of you who are not familiar with that area, that's Pacoima. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't really have anything in common with that area. So I don't think that someone from that area can represent our area. Anyway, there's some petitions going around. There's a website that you can go to, and if Al will get a hold of that information, or I can send it to him, he can send it to you guys, so that you can become informed and hopefully get involved. Thank you.
Okay, we have been contacted by that group, and we'll pass some information on to you shortly. Next month, Carl Goldman will be here and talk about the disaster prevention program and his radio station. The Sheriff's Department will be here to talk about Captain Becker's new 8-zone crime prevention program. We're also going to get a presentation on the CAG. We've invited Josh Mann, manager of Business Retention and Marketing from the Economic Development Corporation. I haven't received an answer from Josh yet. I'll give him a call. Mayor McLean doesn't appear very interested in meeting with Canyon Country residents, although she agreed to in January. She has discontinued returning phone calls, answering emails. We've offered to hold a special meeting for her. So if you think that you would like to talk to the mayor, have her come out here, I suggest that we all start giving her a call and sending her some emails so she knows we're truly interested. That kind of concludes things, and I really appreciate you all being here. What, did you have something back there?
Was there going to be a presentation from the hospital as well?
Actually, yes. The hospital, as soon as the day that they heard that Dr. Dorio was going to be here, the day after, yes, they did call, and you're correct. I probably overbooked, and I'll work on it. And because I'm always overbooking, you know that, and putting 10 times more on the agenda than we can get through. And we only have 2 hours, so we like to keep this nice and action-packed. But yes, the hospital did call me, and I've got to go back and figure out how I'm going to do it all at one time. So thank you very much, and I'll work on that all month. Remember, Dr. Dorio told me that we're not going to get out of this life alive. So, so make sure to be here next month and see what's going to happen. Thank you very much.